Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Bill from Open Door Baptist Church in Morehead City, and thanks for coming back for another word of encouragement this morning. This is the video series that we've been putting out every weekday to help us all, myself included, to put our eyes back on the foundation of our hope, the word of encouragement, God's word of encouragement, and not the world's words of despair and darkness. And today we are going to look at a passage coming out of 1 Samuel chapter 17. 1 Samuel chapter 17, the Israelites find themselves in a very difficult period of their history where they have been fighting against many enemies around them geographically, and most notably the Philistines. And in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 23, we read these words. Behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines, and he spoke the same words as before, and David heard him. Verse 24, all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And now we're going to skip most of the chapter and we're going to go down to verse 52, where we read these words. And the men of Israel and Judah rose with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as Gath and the gates of Ekron, so that the wounded Philistines fell on the way from Shaaraim as far as Gath and Ekron. So, what happened? There was this enormous turnaround. The Israelites, the soldiers of Israel and Judah were shaking in their boots. When they saw Goliath, they were stricken with fear and ran away. But then suddenly in verse 52, we read that they rose with a shout and they routed the Philistines all the way back to Goliath's hometown of Gath. Well, of course, if you've been ever been in a children's Sunday school class, you know exactly what happened. God worked a tremendous victory for his people and for his own namesake. Remember that what David said was that Goliath was insulting the living God of Israel. And so God, jealous for his own namesake, he worked a tremendous victory for the people of Israel over their enemy, the Philistines. Well, listen, if you, like the Israelites, are fearful of your circumstances and your surroundings these days, then look to the Lord. Look to his jealousy for his own namesake and know this, be encouraged by this, that God has given you a champion, and his name is Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ. He is the one who stands up and fights our battles for us against fear, against sin, the Goliath of sin. Jesus goes out and he fights that battle, and he has conquered. He has conquered death. He has conquered sin. He has conquered fear, so that we might look to him in faith and rise with a shout and fight the spiritual battle with his armor, the armor of God clothing us every day. Well, I expect that this is encouraging for you today, and I hope that you'll tune in tomorrow for another word of encouragement.